Not one, not two, but 3 videos. So we've talked about our tendency to be passive, to be aggressive, to maybe be passive and aggressive. We understand the reason why that's our instinct and that's the go-to. But what do we actually do instead? How do we actually navigate these situations where it is really hard to be this empathetic and assertive individual? And I probably do need to say that while this is a challenge about resiliency and reducing stress, we could go into a completely different 3-week self-exploration of just being assertive by itself, because it is such an enigma. It sounds like you're just supposed to always say what you want and you're good. But there's just some tact to it. There's some class to it, if you will. And so I thought about this and I've come up with a few things that when we communicate, which we'd often say that, if there weren't people in the world, it'd probably be a lot less stressful place. But since there are people and you do have to communicate with them, here's just a couple of bonus tips. Tip number 1, use empathy first. I know this is going to sound self-explanatory, but we often forget it. We're so focused on our own mission and our own values that we forget that we need to start with a statement about the other person. Put a period at the end of that sentence. Don't say one thing and then contradict it. 2 separate statements. Statement number 1, you sympathize, you understand why they may feel, think, or act the way that they do. And if we were able to sit down with a cup of coffee and marinate on that, that probably would be true. We could put ourselves in their shoes. We could take a short tour on what their life would be like from their vantage point, and we probably could understand why they feel that way. Put a period at the end of the sentence. Follow it with your own statement. Yes, your statement will be a contradiction to theirs, but it's the way that it has to go. So here's a couple of examples. You need to challenge someone's passive aggressive behavior. You say it like this, and you use your own language. I've noticed that even though you said you were okay with this, it seems very clearly that you're not. Now, I'd prefer it if you could tell me what you really want. That way I'll know where we stand, and really, no hard feelings. And scene. See, it wasn't that hard. Now, challenging unacceptable behavior. Say somebody is in the living room and you really need to say something important to them and they're scrolling through social media. You say something like this. Hey, I see that you're focused on your phone and it looks like you would be able to listen and focus on that at the same time. I want you to know that what I'm about to say is really important to me, and for just a minute I need your full attention. And scene. Lastly, oftentimes we'll be face to face with someone who is actually being aggressive. And I don't mean, they're being violent, but I mean that the way that they're talking to us now with this clarity that we have around it, we see that they're really committed to their own values, but they're not giving us space to have our own. And so you say something like this. Hey, I totally get how upset you are. I even understand why you feel that way. I want to fix this, but you'll have to approach me in a different way. I don't want to get defensive and let that get in the way of us solving this. Not bad, right? Man, I read a lot of self-help books to get to that point, and I'm not even perfect at it either, but I know that method is really effective, and I'm not just saying that because I read it in a book. Now, lastly, one of the hardest things for us as human beings is to say no. The passive ones of us will struggle to say it at all. The aggressive ones of us will say it in such a dismissive way that it will alienate the person making the request. So when you use empathy first, that could be the name of a book. When you use empathy first, you'll be able to say no with such grace that while the other person may be disappointed, they'll still feel respected instead of rejected. God, that's good. I didn't mean for that to kind of roll off the tongue like that, but that's good. So, number one, you thank them. I mean, this is like just manners that we learned as a kid, but I feel like we have to be reminded of this. Number one, you thank them for making their request. Number two, use empathy to be clear that you recognize the importance of what they need from you. Number three, show them that you take their choice to ask you as a compliment. And number four, you ready for this? Just decline the request. So, middle school one-act play, Don't Fail Me Now. Thank you so much for asking me to the 5-year-old birthday party at Chuck E. Cheese. I know Bartholomew deserves to be celebrated. I'm so flattered that you would ask. Unfortunately, I won't be able to join on this date. Thank you so much for asking. Now, I know that's a little contrived and silly, but you get the point that if you just go through that little checklist, a lot of the stuff that you don't want to do or a lot of the things that you feel like violate your own values can really be navigated in a way that doesn't leave you feeling like this person hates you, which I think is a lot of the reason why we don't decline invitations more often. So last thing, Stephen Covey, 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. Classic book. He has a saying that says, you have to decide what your highest priorities are and have the courage, pleasantly, smilingly, non-apologetically, to say no to other things. And the way you do that is by having a bigger yes burning inside. Hey, thanks for sticking around for so much videos from me today. Marinate that on your thoughts and conversations, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.